regular meeting of the Raton City Commission to order Thursday, August 20th at 6 o'clock p.m. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield.
Here.
Commissioner Schuster.
Present.
Commissioner Campbell.
Here.
And Commissioner Hooker.
Here. Will you all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome all our visitors tonight and welcome those who are streaming online with us through KRTN. And thank you, KRTN, for covering our meetings. Our next regular commission meeting will be Tuesday, September 8th at 6 o'clock p.m. And note that all city offices will be closed Monday, September 7th in honor of Labor Day. And we have a special proclamation tonight, International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st, 2026. And I will go ahead and present that proclamation. Proclamation, International Overdose Awareness Day, August 31st, 2026. Whereas overdose continues to impact individuals, families, and communities worldwide, reminding us of the importance of addressing substance use through compassionate recovery support and harm reduction strategies. And whereas International Overdose Awareness Day provides a vital opportunity to honor those lost to overdose, support grieving families, and renew our community's commitment to ending the stigma associated with drug-related deaths. And whereas raising awareness about the dangers of drug misuse can lead to more informed community members who are better equipped to recognize signs of overdose and take life-saving actions. And whereas overdose is a preventable public health issue that affects individuals of every age, background, and community, underscoring the need for comprehensive prevention efforts that address the factors contributing to substance use before harm occurs. And whereas our community shares in the profound grief and loss experienced by families impacted by the international overdose crisis, and whereas the health, safety, and well-being of the residents of the city of Raton are of paramount importance to our community, and whereas every life lost to overdose represents a preventable tragedy and every life saved reflects the power of education, early intervention, community engagement, and hope. Now therefore do I, Lori Chatterley, Mayor of the City of Raton, New Mexico, hereby proclaim August 31st as International Overdose Awareness Day and encourage all residents to participate in efforts that promote prevention, increase awareness, reduce stigma, and to strengthen the health and well-being of our community. And it's signed and sealed by myself. And I'd like to invite Angel Acevedo, to come up with your family for a photo. Angel's the one who brought this to our attention, and I'm really grateful for that. And this is for you all. You guys come. Is this in the way, or are you good?
We're working on it.
Okay. Just got a couple more. Thank you. And I've asked Angel to speak to us for a little bit about their own loss in their family and some of the things that are special to them. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for seeing us.
Dear Mayor Chatterley, members of the City Council, and everyone here tonight, thank you for granting this proclamation recognizing August 31st as International Overdose Awareness Day in Raton. I want to tell you about my brother, Joseph Acevedo. Growing up, Joseph was a life in every room. He was a protective brother, a devoted son, and a deeply loving uncle. When his children, Sapphire and Eric, were born, his whole world shifted. He loved his kids with everything he had. Joseph had one of those rare, massive hearts where he would give you the shirt off his back, even when he was struggling himself. Coming before you today, on August 20th, carries an extra layer of heartache as as it is my niece Sapphire's birthday. Instead of her dad being here to celebrate with her, blow out candles, and wrap his arms around her, she is spending another birthday without him. When fentanyl took Joseph from us, it didn't just end his life, it shattered our family. Saying goodbye in that hospital room broke our hearts forever. What pains me most every single day now is seeing the hurt in my mama's eyes, seeing how broken she is without her son, and watching Sapphire and Eric grow up without their father. Most people look at addiction and an overdose from a distance. They judge. They assume it's a choice or a character flaw. But if you truly knew Joseph or anyone fighting this battle, you would see the truth. These aren't bad people trying to be bad. They are lost souls with huge hearts, carrying heavy pain, reaching out in an unheard cry for help. An overdose is what happens when that cry goes unanswered because of shame, silence, and a fear of judgment. They don't need harsh words or isolation. They need guidance, love, and a hand to pull them out of the dark. The impact of an overdose doesn't end with the individual. It ripples outward, tearing through families and leaving children, parents, and entire communities to pick up the pieces. When we lose someone to overdose, we lose potential, we lose love, and we lose a vital piece of who we are. Breaking the silence around this crisis isn't just about remembering those we've lost. It's about protecting the family still standing and ensuring no other mother has to bury her child. Standing here tonight is my promise to my brother. I promise Joseph that I will never let him become just a faded memory or another tragic story people tell and forget. His life mattered, his heart mattered, and his voice will keep speaking through this work. This proclamation for August 31st isn't just another piece of paper. It is a promise from Raton that we will stop looking away. It is a message to my mama, to Sapphire on her birthday today, to Eric, and to every struggling soul that you are seen, you are loved, and you do not have to carry this pain alone. Thank you, Mayor Shatterly and council members, for honoring Joseph's memory, for choosing compassion over judgment, and thank you for standing with families like mine.
Next, we'll move on to item 5, committee reports from commissioners. Commissioner Hoger.
Commissioners' reports begins on August the 8th, where I attended the ribbon cutting for the Moonwell, a new business on 2nd Street. On August 12th, I attended the Region 8 Behavioral Health Reform and Investment Act Stakeholder Committee meeting. Key updates included the submission of the regional plan on June 30th, pending review by the Behavioral Health Reform and Investment Act Committee on September 2nd. The committee also awaits early access funding for projects like the Hub and Spoke Case Management Program and a regional detox center, both of which will be in Taos. On August 13th, I met with Michelle Denblaker and Enrico Grade of Yes Housing, along with City Manager, Mayor Chatterley, Commissioner Campbell, and Jason Phillips. We visited the El Portal site and a lot on Tiger Trail and discussed possibilities for workforce and affordable housing. I'll let the others elaborate on that. On August the 18th, I attended the Senior Center Advisory Committee meeting. We reviewed the budget with the beginning of the fiscal year, and it was noted there was a shortfall from last year, mostly having to do with increased food costs. The Area Agency on Aging provided $114,000 to help cover the shortfall. Colfax County has budgeted $140,000 for fiscal year 26 and 27. Monica Finkbone also reported vacancies within the Cimarron facility, the Mora and Cimarron senior centers. Those are managers, 2 vacancies for managers, but both have been filled. One from within the Cimarron facility. That vacancy was filled using the New Mexico Senior Employment Program, which will pay the salary of the new person hired. And finally, the HVAC system in Cimarron was replaced with funds from emergency capital outlay. I'd like to add a personal note that, in my opinion, Ms. Finkbone is doing a wonderful job running these facilities on a limited budget, and she has a keen sense of the needs of seniors in facility operations and in her hiring practices.
Thank you, Commissioner. I echo that. I missed my time going over to the senior center for that. It's really, thank you. I appreciate that update.
Yes, I attended the same meeting that, Mayor, I'll let you handle more of that about the housing. I also attended a meeting with the mayor and Mr. Phillips and the city manager, and myself with New Mexico State Parks. Was a lengthy discussion for several hours on the future plans for Sugar Eat, for actually the Mesa property and actually the continue on to the Buck Ridge property and how that ties into Raton's future. Last Friday on the 14th, I actually made a field site visit with Lloyd Wakefield and Jason Phillips up to the post-fire location up in Colorado that we've been having to deal with for about 10 days now. It is now 90% contained. A little bit of it did drop into the Schwarzheim area, but it was in already a burnt area. Most of it was kept up on top in the grasslands, but it did burn the majority of the James and John grassland up there. And the Fisher's Peak Park area, they watched that. It ended up being over 4,300 acres. We'll be closely monitoring that. It did not get into a lot of timber, so we'll see. It probably will not affect water quality wise. The concern we worked with our fire chief, Chief Burke, all the time, was that it did not get into the Chickarica watershed, which was not burned in the track fire, and it didn't get into Frisco Canyon. Got very close, and another one that was just a lightning strike up there. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Schuster.
On the 14th, I believe it was, met with Kevin Davies from Miller Timber, and we discussed the educational opportunities that Miller Timber would be trying to implement in the community, and Tice was also there with us, and we discussed how their educational opportunities could merge in with what's happening at Kearney School, and such things as CDL, of course, and certifications for firefighting and different things for forestry fighting. So Chief Burke has discussed these same items with Mr. Davies and the Miller Timber Company. It was an interesting look at what they're planning to do and what they hope to accomplish here. On the 18th, just the other day, met with you, Mayor Chatterley, as well as our city clerk, Desiree, and with input from
Brandy Dietz.
Thank you, Brandy Dietz, regarding creating some better put together forms for those who are looking at requesting lodgers tax dollars. So I think Mayor's actually doing most of the heavy work by typing things up and putting it together. But I think we had a very good productive discussion on how we could make that process more efficient.
Thank you. We have some purple ribbons. Yes, we definitely want to. I was looking all over my house for purple and I couldn't find anything. 5, 6, 7. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, on what is the date? Thank you, Tuesday. I attended the water board meeting, and
I was there.
yes, and Commissioner Schuster also was in attendance. The July filter plant production was 38.8 million gallons. We're still drawing everything off of the Eagle Nest source. We also considered the task order number 5 for the phase 2 outlet works at Lake Maloya for a cost of $87,000. We also considered task order 6 for the spillway crest rehabilitation which is estimated at $138,000 for engineering fees, excuse me. We also considered the quotes for pump stations number 2 and 3 for the pump rebuilds. That came to $200,000. Manager Wakefield is in discussions with them. Presently, the variable speed drive motors have increased over 100% in a matter of a few years. So we're looking for other sources there. The sanitary survey for the Cimarron line passed. Pump station number 1, that reconditioning is complete. Mr. Campbell alluded to the post-fire update, where the water department's in discussions with Sugar Eat State Park now about the possibility of the water department providing them with a potable water line. And Vermejo Park is also completed discussions with us about Raton providing them with potable water to the park. And that's all I have on that. The Finance Committee met today at noon. We discussed the GRT collections and some grant reimbursements.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The North Central New Mexico Economic Development Executive Committee met today for one of those are always very lengthy meetings. We approved the final fiscal year 27 budget that needed to be adjusted from when we originally approved it. Cost allocations, organizational chart, RFP for construction services, which impacts the ROC program and getting contractors that are available in our area. So if any contractors in our area want to keep an eye out for that RFP, it launches tomorrow, and then you get on their list of contractors for any of the services that they're doing in our county. We also went over AAA provider allocations. As Commissioner Hoger mentioned, there is less funding available, and so they're trying to do what they can to help everybody meet their funding needs. We went over a fee-for-service schedule update, so if we were to use them as fee-for-service, they're looking at a rate of 5% up to $25,000 for members that need to use their fee-for-service. They also received over $4 million in GROW funds that they distribute out to everyone in their area, and so we went over that grant agreement. We're moving as many insurance policies as we can over to the New Mexico Self-Insurers Fund because the rates are so much better. We went over a teleworking policy that needs some updating and lifting the hiring freeze on vacant positions. So a lot of work is being done, and we are currently looking for a new executive director. I was put on the hiring subcommittee, and we're going to be meeting August 23rd in the evening and then September 1st, hopefully, for interviews. All the directors of the various departments gave their reports, which are also very lengthy. If anyone wants a copy of that, I'm happy to email it to you. And our next executive and full board meeting is September 24th in Santa Fe. I also did meet on July 30th with the Nature Conservancy regarding the Buck Ridge Ranch acquisition. That was with, I think Mr. Phillips was with me. I think Mr. Scotto was out of town. Talked a little bit about that and a grant that they're writing to help with that. In addition to the $2 million reauthorization from capital outlay that we're accepting that grant potentially tonight from the state. Or those monies, I guess it's not a grant. On August 12th, I met, as Commissioner Campbell mentioned, with New Mexico State Parks in Santa Fe with Mr. Scott and Mr. Phillips. Mr. Campbell was very helpful in that meeting as we discussed their water needs. That was, I think a lot of people think that getting water somewhere is very simple, and it is not. And there are so many reasons why that system could hurt our system and how we would have to close it off and it'd be a separate system, and you can't just plug into some pipe that's out there. There's a whole process to it, particularly as you're defying gravity with your water. So that was discussed quite a bit. We also discussed trail development, park improvement projects. We mentioned that the group shelter that we promised would be rebuilt 15 years ago needed to be done, and that wasn't on their list, so we asked them to add that to the list. And other future expansion opportunities, if they would be, I think they mentioned they were already talking to New Mexico Game and Fish about potentially helping manage Bartlett Mesa and potentially Buck Ridge in the future, depending on what happens there. We also discussed the importance of having an MOU with state parks for fire response. I believe Mr. Sagata is going to be working on that. But they had a lot of people from state parks there. There was a lot of information, and I'm glad we got to meet. As others have mentioned, I met on the 13th with the Yes Housing Group. We had posted quorum so more than 2 of us could attend that, which was great. We looked at 2 properties for potential housing projects focused on workforce development. Today they emailed us some ideas of things they've done other places, just some visuals. What they're doing is really just looking at our properties and seeing what happens there. I don't know, Mr. Sagata, if you were going to talk in depth about that at the end, or.
I was going to give a little bit of a report, but basically, yeah, we just heard from them today. I passed out some of their work in Albuquerque, but kind of excited. They were really excited about the Creville Cabbage property, and I'm excited to see what they come up with.
Me too. It was a really great meeting. It was exciting to hear that this company, they help you figure out funding. They do everything from bare ground all the way to management, because I know that we don't want to become landlords ourselves. So depending on there's so many things that would have to be worked out if this were to move forward, but it is exciting to have partners that have done this successfully in New Mexico and Arizona in multiple places, and would look at a few-story project that would be a nod to the history of the El Portal hotel that was there, or something like that. Lots of unknowns, but just a great meeting. Again, geared for workforce housing, mixed-use units, probably 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms with potential for other maybe work away from home space. A lot of people are working from home but would like a little office space or something like that. So there's all kinds of ideas out there. But there's no agreements or anything signed. We're just talking to them. On the 18th, I did meet with Miller Timber for a breakfast meeting with Mr. Sagata and Chief Burke, and I think that was everybody. And we just discussed their expansion into Raton related to their wildland fire crew training and potential for forestry work. They are already doing a lot of forestry work out at Philmont Scout Ridge. So, and I've seen some of that work, and it's beautiful work that they're doing. I know they're working on partnerships and other things in town. We're excited to have them around, and hopefully we'll have some opportunities for younger folks who are interested in any kind of wildland firefighting to have training for different skills related to that, and other things like CDLs and other equipment things that would expand those offerings for that high school graduate. They said to about 25 is their key target for the region they would draw from the state. And they were mentioning how once you turn 40, firefighting becomes very different business, very painful business. So it's work for the young. On the 18th, I also had the utility correlation meeting with Raton Waterworks and Raton Public Service. I'll let Mr. Sagata share anything he'd like to share with that. And then, as Commissioner Schuster mentioned, we did have our subcommittee meeting regarding updating the lodger's tax application. So lots going on. And that's all I had. We will move on to item 6, items from citizens present. Glad everyone's here. As always, I'm going to go over a few ground rules. This is an open meeting, however, public comment is limited to this point on the agenda. Second, it's not a back and forth conversation. It's not a question-answer session. As I've said before, you can reach all of us very easily. Our cards are out in the hallway. Our numbers and emails are online. And just a note, for some people lately have been giving me these really tight timelines. I have a lot going on, so I can't meet deadlines very quick. So you have to give me a day or two to be able to respond. And I'm sure most of us have a lot going on. But we will respond. You can also contact the city manager. Third, anyone wishing to speak in the meeting should be at the podium addressing the commission and be recognized by myself, which I'm the meeting chair. Fourth, I ask that we don't have side conversations and comments and jeering, and even clapping can be distracting. for our business meeting. I ask that we abstain from profane remarks, and I appreciate civil behavior. When you would like to address us, please state your full name for us, and I will have up to 3 minutes for you. We'll have 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how many people would like to address the commission. And so at this point, I will open the floor for items from citizens present.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. And if I could ask the indulgence of the Commission for just one extra few seconds.
Will you state your name, please, Max?
This issue of overdose hits home. I lost a father to alcoholism. And as most of all you know, the actress Hayden Panettiere died this past weekend in my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina, most likely from an overdose. So this really hits home, and all the support that you can give to anyone that you know may be in that trouble, please do so. Thank you. I want to remind everyone on the commission that a moratorium is not a no. It is a timeout that will allow you, the commission, time to do your due diligence. We see what's happening in other parts of the state, but if you look down in the southern part of the state at Sunland Park, you see they rushed into that with Oracle, and now there's all manner of mess going on down there. Let's avoid that. Let's adopt a moratorium, whether it's 6 months or whether it's a year, to give yourselves, to give Mr. McGarry the time that he needs as well to put together a quality package. Anything that you pass now, you may find you may need to amend within the next 6 months or a year. So please, a moratorium is not a no. It's simply a timeout that says we want to do our due diligence to make sure that whatever we do is right for everyone concerned. A data center is unlike any other industry. You can't point to any other industry in this country that has the same issues as data centers do. So yes, we can treat a data center as a standalone as we consider these things. We do have other industries, retail establishments. If I wanted to open up an adult bookstore, you guys would say, okay, we don't want you to put it right next to a school, or we don't want you to put it right next to a store, simply by virtue of what you're selling. So that precedent is set. It can be done. So once again, please remember, a moratorium is not a no. It's simply a timeout while we do our due diligence. Thank you.
Will you state your name, Max, for the record? Will you state your name for the record?
I'm sorry, Max Holland.
Thank you.
Again, I really appreciate all the effort I see you guys are making. I think that was about the 5th special session, or was it the 4th that you've had dedicated to data centers? And
Would you state your name for us, please?
my name is Zibby Lanham,
Thank you.
and I'm a few-year resident of Raton, and I love it, and I'm not going anywhere, no matter what. Anyway, I had a great bunch of information again for you on one little detail until I watched your special session today. But I'm going to shorten up the details and point out a couple of things. The detail that I was looking at was what is infrasonic noise, and that's any industrial noise that generates inaudibly below 20 hertz. And I want to tie this up with something that I think you all agree with, that we're a great area for manufacturing. And when I did some research on this kind of noise and other industrial noise, unfortunately, all manufacturing generates a level of this kind of noise. It doesn't matter what it is. And there's very little specific one-size-fits-all measurement that can be taken that covers all manufacturing. So this is going to exist whether it's a data center or all manufacturing or not. And I don't want to stumble other forms of manufacturing or business in this area because we're actually kind of perfect for it. And also I noticed Mr. Campbell first raised this, the fact that we're separating the idea of a data center, the ordinance is specific just to a data center, from other manufacturing is something of a legal quandary, and I mean quandary. You do not want to do these things quickly. You do want to make sure that other industries you want to come in here who will follow the same kind of ordinances don't get stifled by quick rush to judgment ordinances. You need the extra time for legal review. Not to mention all the other specific details you've been working on, which I can think of 20 more at any given minute. But that's why I'm here, to urge you to keep working just as hard on these ordinances, but take your time and please pass a moratorium in the meantime. That's it.
My name is Jenny Velarde, the Mayor Commission, Mr. Zagata, and every city official that has worked so hard on this policy and these guardrails. We just want you to know that we see you and we are incredibly grateful. And, you know, we're in the details with you, whether we're in this room or we are watching the streaming, maybe even more than once. We thank you so much. And we know at this point, any municipality around the country, these things need to be the non-negotiable. But they are a half of the whole, and the other half right now is a moratorium. We need a moratorium. We need a moratorium. And I would argue that we need an 18-month moratorium, just like our very good neighbors in Santa Fe. And I will make a few points as to why this is imperative. So the industry at hand, as we all should know by now, is moving at such a breakneck speed without federal oversight. In fact, federal oversights were dismantled. What other industry in our modern American history can you point out that has that combination? That is stunningly dangerous. Combine that with point number 2, that the financials behind this industry, the world has never seen before. So a $50,000 whatever is not going to mean anything to these guys. I'm going to give an example that's been floating around this week that really puts these numbers, these impossible numbers, into perspective. 1 million seconds is the equivalent to 11 days. 1 billion seconds is the equivalent to 35 years. And 1 trillion seconds is the equivalent to 32,000 years. And the titans of industry behind these centers are in the latter 2 financial brackets. That's pretty startling. You know, that's pretty startling. And that means that it's your job to wrangle it. If at the federal level it cannot be wrangled, that's a pretty massive burden on your shoulders. I would really ask that we join forces with our very good neighbors, Santa Fe, because we do for other things. Why would we not for this? Number 1, it keeps us protected, and it keeps us in an alliance, in a reciprocity. Number 2, not doing this, is a stigma. You know, it's a choice to not take on a moratorium at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission?
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. I wanted to address something that came up tonight about.
Your name.
I
know.
we
know you.
No, it isn't that. It's just we're all like zooming ahead tonight. My name is Pat Walsh. I'm a citizen of Raton. Something came up. I wasn't planning on talking. I thought you guys were probably tired of listening to me, but something came up tonight that was kind of interesting to me, and I just wanted to provide a little extra food for thought. The question came up, let's say a data center type project came in and provided its own energy. And the idea was that it would be self-regulating because of our utility restrictions. And one thing I did want to mention specifically about the state legislature and the idea that it would be helpful to have a moratorium that would cover that period of the state legislature, which I think would pretty much need to be a minimum of a year. But there was let's just say that a project came in and set up its own microgrid with natural gas. Now, the natural gas comes from a private company. So that's sort of a different ballgame than the city utilities. And the issue that I wanted to bring before you is that last legislative session, Senate Bill 235 was called the Microgrid Oversight Act. And it passed the state Senate but didn't go through the House. And that bill was meant to regulate large-scale private microgrids, 20 megawatts or more, tied to energy users like data centers. And that would require them to meet state clean energy and reporting rules. So from this, my understanding is that a microgrid like that would not be regulated in the same way as other types of power utilities. So I would say that a moratorium, again, gives the commission time to look into that kind of an issue, and also gives time to see if the state legislature is going to come back to this issue, which I think they might. So I just wanted to throw that and add that to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the next portion of our meeting. Item 8, deliberate and act on approval of the August 11th, 2026 regular meeting minutes. Anyone have any comments or corrections? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept the August 11th meeting minutes.
Second?
Motion a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, introduction of ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Raton, New Mexico, amending Chapter 115, Business Registration and License Fees, and Chapter 156, Zoning Code of the Raton Code of Ordinances to establish a registration, permitting, and operating framework for short-term rentals within the city. Mr. Scotto.
Mayor and Commission, before you is a proposed ordinance establishing formal regulatory framework for short-term rentals. This is something we've been working on for quite a while now. It would amend the city's business registration and zoning codes to require short-term rental registration, zoning approval, local contact information, safety and good neighbor standards, and annual renewal. The ordinance also confirms that short-term rental operators and, where applicable, hosting platforms must collect and remit lodger's tax and applicable gross receipts tax, placing them on similar footing with our traditional lodging businesses. It sets zoning rules for where owner-occupied and whole home STRs may operate. It provides enforcement and penalty mechanisms and gives existing short-term rentals a 90-day grace period to comply after the ordinance takes effect. Remember, this is just an introduction tonight. We will have one more public meeting and come up for a possible vote then. And the city would recommend approval for the introduction of this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. And at the next meeting, if this is introduced, then there will be a public hearing with that.
Yes, very well.
Thank you. I had a question here. And I don't know if this is, this only came up because I was talking to the Madam Clerk the other day. And it mentions over clerk/treasurer as the person, so does that need to be updated to just the clerk language?
You can.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would probably be more consistent with the rest of the ordinance.
yeah.
That was the only thing I
Nice catch.
noticed. Yeah. And then I didn't know in the section, page 3, it has about a third of the way down, 115.47, license application, and then in all caps it has New Mexico tax ID number. I just didn't understand how that reads.
So that we're basically amending a portion of the business licensing ordinance. So yeah, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense just reading it on its own, but in the context of the ordinance, it's basically saying what is required for them to apply for a business license.
Got you, thank you. So that's a piece that's gonna go into amending the
Correct.
existing.
Correct.
Okay.
And the only thing that's different is basically it just requires a approval from planning and zoning department.
And then do we have it says there will be an annual short-term rental registration fee. Is that something that changes based on policy, or do we have something in mind? Is there something that's typical?
I think we're just talking about a regular
Business registration fee? So it's the same as a business registration fee? Okay. And I know this is a long time coming. I remember bringing this back 8 years ago, 6 years ago, to previous city managers, how we needed to get this implemented, because there's been a lot of guidance on this from the state for a long time. So I'm glad to see this happening. I think it's good for our lodgers to have this level playing field. And I'll stop blah, blah, blah. Any comments, questions from the commission?
So, Mayor, before they, since it didn't fall into this, they didn't have to have a CRS number for a tax number before, or did they?
Well, if they had a business license, they would, but the main thing is that we had no limit on where you could have a short-term rental, and also we had no way to make a level playing field where they have to submit lodger's tax, just like any, motel or hotel would have to do.
The lodger's tax would be the addition. They should have been collecting gross receipts tax anyway, already. Should have been.
Yes.
Should have been. That's the
Yes.
key word there, should have
Should have
been.
been, yeah.
No oversight.
Thank you.
Anything further from the commission? If not, I would entertain a motion to introduce this ordinance.
I make a motion to introduce an ordinance of the City of Raton, New Mexico, amending Chapter 115, Business Registration and License Fees, and Chapter 156, Zoning Code of the Raton Code of Ordinance to establish a registration, permitting, and operating framework for short-term rental services.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to introduce the ordinance regarding short-term rental. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Mayor Chatterley.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Schuster.
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes.
And Commissioner Holger.
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. Item C, deliberate and act on event form for the Raton High School Homecoming Parade on September 25th, 2026. Mr. Scott.
Mayor and Commission, before you is an event form for this year's homecoming parade. As you stated, it takes place September 25th, with the parade starting at 1 p.m. on First Street. All the documents are present. City recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. Scotta. Any comments or questions from the commission? Let's get that tiger spirit going. All right. I entertain a motion on item C.
Move to approve the event form for Raton High School Homecoming Parade on September 25th, 2026.
I have a motion and a second to approve the event form for homecoming parade. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item D, deliberate and act on Lodgers Tax Advisory Board recommendations. Mr. Scott.
Mayor and Commission, before you are two recommendations from the Lodgers Tax Board. First one being a recommendation to the commission that $40,000 be awarded to the Center for Community Innovation for Google Ads Management and the Google Ads.
That's me.
That's, yeah, we got a
And media
management,
Sorry.
there you go. 30,000 would be for the Google Ads, 10,000 for the media management, and I believe we have Patricia here. If we have any questions, we turn it over to her or yourself.
Oh, Patricia, would you mind telling us a little bit about that, what those services do?
So we will do another biannual update here in the next few weeks, but we manage the Explore Raton, the tourism brand for the city, and we have been managing that for since 2017, so 2018 about. And so what we did is, as a nonprofit, we were able to apply for a nonprofit Google's ads, which we get $10,000 a month to manage. And then, so we had to create a website. We created social media. We also work with our Lodgers Tax Board. So anytime that we get, or the Lodgers Tax gets approves something, we work with the businesses or the events to make sure that everything is up to code and branded correctly, and that everything links to Explore Raton. So we do a lot. Since I came on board, when I first got onto the job in 2020, we were reaching 275,000 people online, and before I left my position last year, we reached over close to 6 million people online digitally. Those are all trackable. We know where they're coming from. We know where the data is at, and that's because of all the work that we've done online. So, but yeah, we post online, update our website. We work with partners like New Mexico True. We kind of worked with them this year, and we're doing it again. But yeah, there's a lot to it. Sorry, my voice is kind of.
Are you, Patricia, involved in that still, or is that going to be somebody else involved?
Yes, I'm still involved in it. I'm the president of the Center for Community Innovation, and then our employee, she couldn't make it tonight, who manages all of that now. So she is, gosh, she's 8 months into the full-time job of that, and that has been fun for her. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission on this item? I know this is something we tend to do every year, and it's part of getting that Google Ads.
Yeah, and so it's a lot, and with AI coming in the mix, managing that grant has not been fun the last 2 years. So, but we've been kicking butt at it still and keeping us on the map still for Raton on Google. So, thank you.
Do we want to take these together or separately?
I would suggest you do them
Separately? Okay. I would entertain a motion on the first recommendation, $40,000 be awarded to the Center for Community Innovation for the Google Ads Management and the Media Management.
I would make that motion. Approve Lodgers Tax to be awarded to Center for Community Innovation for Google Ads Management.
I have a motion and a second to approve the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board recommendation regarding the Center for Community Innovation. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Second recommendation, Mr. Scotto.
Madam Mayor and Commission, the second recommendation is for $29,702 to be awarded to Raton Main Street Skate City Musical Festival for ads on KCRT and KRTN, T-shirts, sanitation, porta potties, hospitality, security, insurance. We have Exile and Will and Crystal Gates and outdoor entertainment. A little background on this: the $29,000 actually exceeds what's in the entertainment section there, but we do have the grow funds, and with some quick work that Patricia and Michael Ann have done, we're going to be able to use about $20,000 of the grow funds to backfill that. So the city would recommend approval of this. And if Patricia or Michael Ann want to address it, you could ask.
All right, thanks. So we had received a Grow Funds contract or agreement, grant agreement from New Mexico True. Basically, what it had said was, basically I guess the best way I could put it is they're becoming a sponsor of our event, and in order to do that, they will give us these funds, which are obviously to help stimulate the economy through tourism. And so as long as we put New Mexico True on everything. So we got the contract last Thursday. Obviously the event is in 3 weeks, so we had to jump on it, and I had to work all weekend to update kind of everything that we have with Gate City, all of our press releases, ads. I just sent them off this morning for approval, so once you guys do approve, then I'll start running everything. But we had to get it all approved, and then they will also, the tourism department will send an employee down here, someone from the state, to basically look at everything, make sure that we fulfilled everything on our agreement, which I believe that we did, or we will. But yeah, that's pretty much the premise of it. So we're very thankful for Jack Chatfield and, you know, him seeing the vision that we have for the city and, you know, for Raton and helping us out.
Thank you, and I'm glad you mentioned Representative Chatfield. He
Yes.
was integral in getting these growth funds for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
thank
would
you.
think, Madam Mayor, maybe somewhere down the road after in September, maybe we invite Mr. Chatfield for Appreciation Day or something.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any comments or questions regarding this request, the $29,702, approximately $20,000 of which will be backfilled with growth funds?
Madam Mayor, I guess the only item I question is the T-shirts. Are these for resale or they?
No, they're for
giveaways?
volunteers. Yeah, they're just for volunteers, and they all every T-shirt that we've ever bought has Explore Raton on it as well, so that's part of the lodger's tax. Yeah.
That was my one concern.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anything further? I would entertain a motion on the recommendation for $29,702 to be awarded to our amazing, award-winning Great America Raton Main Street for the Gate City Music Festival. Make a motion.
I move that we approve the $29,702 to Raton Main Street for the Gate City Music Festival.
I'll second.
I have a motion and 2 seconds. We'll take Commissioner Hunter's second. Thank you. For the Gate City Music Festival award of $29,702. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item E, deliberate and act on advertising grant agreement from the New Mexico Tourism Department and the City of Raton for advertising materials related to the Gate City Music Festival.
Mayor and Commission, before you is a grant agreement from New Mexico Tourism Department. These are the growth funds that we've just been talking about that were secured by Representative Chatfield for the Gate City Music Fest and associated costs. The amount for this year's event will be $20,340. It's going to leave approximately 24 and change for next year's event. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. Any comments or questions from the commission on this grant agreement? Or advertising agreement, excuse me. Both.
I will move to approve the State of New Mexico Tourism Department advertising agreement.
Second. I would just comment, we're moving to accept.
Oh. So amended. Move to accept.
To accept. All right. Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept the advertising grant agreement from the New Mexico Tourism Department for advertising materials related to the Gate City Music Festival. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item F, deliberate and act on acceptance of award from the New Mexico Tourism Department for the Raton Gate City Digital Gateway Interstate Visitor Intercept and Wayfinding Project. Mr. Sagata.
Mayor and Commission, a lot of things from New Mexico Tourism tonight, but this is the electronic billboard. We got the grant. The amount is for $209,090. It's a little less than we asked for. Don't see Ann to answer any of your questions. I would try to answer them the best I can, but this has been a grant that we applied for the digital sign. Once this is approved, we can proceed with that project.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata.
Madam Mayor, I need to abstain from the discussion because of a possible conflict.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And this has come to our attention previously, and we know that this, accepting this is a great thing. However, we'll still have to go through a procurement process, and I believe Mayor Pro Tem is interested at some point potentially being part of that. So we'll have to have a location and different property to be able to put this up. So any comments or questions from the commission about this digital billboard?
Has RPS been consulted now in the logistics of getting what's necessary to get power or whatever to it?
I believe for the site that they were initially considering, they have been spoken to about. But as far as moving forward, it's probably going to be in the best interest that we go out for RFP for a site, and we'll have to see what happens then.
Yeah, because from the RFP side, the other one is making sure what is the proximity to power and how much of a project is it to get power to the site.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure RPS is looped in on that process for RFP and obviously on the plans and everything for that, so. Thank you for your question. Any further discussion? Sure.
Yeah, have we any idea yet of what it will look like or say, or is that not decided yet?
She had a
Great
design.
question
I
for
say,
Ian.
they were kind of talking through it, but I don't think they had anything set in stone by any means, but the idea would be to use it to advertise Raton for traffic on I-25.
I know it's a double-sided sign. You'll see the same thing, message going north, going south. The size, like she said, I believe they were initially asked for 250 or 275. We've got the 209. It's going to be a little smaller than what she anticipated, but I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference.
Mayor, I would suggest that Cynthia may have some additional information. I think she's looped into the initial proposal, aren't you?
A little bit, so, but I can try to answer questions. I think first, the thing I heard that we probably want to make sure we have clear is the zoning change was not to support the sign. It was in compliance with the comprehensive plan and trying to ensure that adjacent zoning follows a pattern. So I think we want to really make sure that we're decoupling those two issues because...
Yeah, we didn't approve the zoning change. That didn't come, yeah. So we haven't done anything with zoning or anything like that yet. Yeah. But because I brought up the point we need to go through a proper procurement first before we mess with it.
And we weren't sure we were going to get the grant.
Yeah, we didn't know if we were getting the grant, anything like that, so. Do you know anything about the look or design of the sign? Okay, thank you. Sorry. Commissioner Campbell.
Are we, even if we approve this, before it actually, the final order goes through, can they bring forward something we can look at and see what it's going to look at?
I'm sure we can arrange that, Commissioner.
Yeah, because since we're going to have to probably go out for, site and location and electric issues, at the same time knowing we have less money than we thought in the beginning, what size and what physically it would look like.
Yeah, I'm sure we can, I will get in touch with Ann tomorrow morning and see if she's got any information. If she does, I will forward it on to you all.
And one other question I have, Commissioner Schuster's issue is that what is the brightness of this and how does it handle it being along the interstate? Is there an issue with something like this and what it looks like?
Mayor and Commissioner, I'm sure in the procurement process, when we go out for it, we can put all of those guidelines in.
Okay.
I'm sure DOT has guidelines on everything, so I'm sure
there's. Beside the interstate,
they will, absolutely. You can't put up a billboard without them.
No, and you sure don't want a distraction to drivers.
And Mayor, it's my understanding that DOT is putting in place things to protect dark skies and it's simply directing the light in the appropriate ways. I believe that's taken care of by DOT.
Anything further from the commission on this award? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept the award from the New Mexico Tourism Department.
I would move to approve to accept the award from the New Mexico Tourism Department.
Second.
Interstate Visitor Intercept and Wayfinding Project.
I have a motion and a second to accept this award regarding the digital signage. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item G, deliberate and act on grant agreement between the City of Raton and Quorum Health Foundation to explore the feasibility of workforce housing in partnership with Miners Colfax Medical Center. Mr. Scott.
Mayor and Commission, before you is an agreement between Quorum Health Foundation and the City of Raton. It's awarding $20,000 to support the homegrown housing project. The grant funds are designated for hiring an affordable housing consultant and conducting marketing and employment studies to assess the feasibility of developing workforce housing in partnership with Miners Colfax Medical Center. This agreement outlines reporting requirements and expected outcomes. The grant period runs from September 1, 2026 to August 31st, 2027, with the full amount dispersed upon execution of the agreement. There are some catches in there that if expenses exceed the $20,000, I believe the city would be responsible for them, but we also do have Cynthia here who has worked with this grant for any of your questions. I have talked with Mr. Cotter at MCMC, and he has got other things on his plate right now, so he didn't know where this would fit in at this time. He is really trying to get that other health initiative going right now. But Cynthia, you have
Are there any questions from the commission?
Mr. Holder.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Although Mr. Sagata partially answered that. This grant has a lot of terms and record keeping and so forth that somebody would have to keep track of. It seems like quite a bit for $20,000. And I was wondering who would execute the terms of this agreement, because I thought it might be MCMC, but it sounds like no. So
It's the city in collaboration with probably Project Moxie, which is our designated consultant for the work.
And then my other, this is more of a concern than a question. I can appreciate doing a feasibility study for a target population for housing, but the problem I have is there's no further funding. Once we know who our audience is, how do we get funding for step 2?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And the purpose of the early feasibility study is to answer questions like that. So we begin to identify what the capital stack would be for the development, whether it's feasible to build the capital stack for the development and ultimately have the housing development work. So that's the very purpose of this phase. So we would be doing financials on it and figuring out if we have a route to get it built.
Right, but they're not giving us any further funding. Is that correct?
At this point, correct. All we're getting right now is a funding for a feasibility assessment, which is the preferred first move. So we want to make sure we have a real plan for the property and understand the costs associated and where funding would come from before we commit, essentially.
And do you have an idea of where this housing might be located?
We do. We have some theories, which again is why we're doing the early feasibility study. So we have some initial renderings. One of them looks at the old hospital and looks at the possibility of making it almost like a skilled nursing facility where you'd go in and have rooms that folks can be in, almost dorm style. And then another is the possibility of taking down the old hospital and then building from the ground up. So we do have a lot of alternatives. Part of that is driven by the type of healthcare workforce that we're anticipating. And so we would be working very closely with MCMC to look at their historic temporary workforce activities. And as many hospitals are moving away from temporary workforce and trying to get permanence, we'd be figuring out, well, what does that mean? Are we getting young people straight out of med school or straight out of health sciences programs? Or are we getting folks who already have families? And that will help us determine what the design should be. So all of that is the purpose of the feasibility study, to work out those details.
Anything further, Commissioner Hobart? Commissioner Campbell?
Has there been, I guess this is the feasibility study, has there been a study similar to this and funding that has been obtained or something to where, there's examples of success of something like this?
We have related projects. They're not perfect fits. So we have the brownfields funding, and that is a brownfields site. So our brownfields consultants at Ayers Associates have done a hospital conversion into housing before. They know what's required there. We also have a really nice relationship with the housing, an individual who's an expert in housing coming out of Las Cruces, whose name is escaping me at the moment. Green, I think, does that name? Yeah, so she's had tremendous successes in building capital stacks and works very closely with the Project Moxie team. So we have the ability to glean lessons from some of these other builds to inform this one.
Do we believe this, since this grant does have its, limit on funding there, are we able to do this since we would have to fund it above that without it going over?
We can absolutely stay within the dollar amount here.
Madam Mayor, do we know if Project Moxie is in fact a 501c3? They stipulate in here that we have to have a nonprofit that's the fiscal agent.
We are the fiscal agent as far as I know. So,
we're not a 501c3.
No, we're not.
So that's why I'm a little concerned we may have already started an issue here. Because it stipulates on page 4, terms and conditions, the grantee or its fiscal sponsor is an organization that is both exempt from tax under section 501c3 of the IRS or IRC, or an organization described in IRC code 509A1.
I don't have an answer to that. I'd have to circle back. I don't know. The second part of that is where I would imagine that our opportunity is. Can you read that again?
Yeah, it's Internal Revenue Code 509A1, which I don't know if the city falls into either one of these. Because I guess what I'm looking at is like Grow Raton, Main Street both fall under 501c3s, but I would assume that Project Moxie is, but I don't want to draw an incorrect assumption either.
I don't think they're the fiscal agent. I think we are. So as a municipality, so I can look into that for the commission.
Yeah, but like I said, it's pretty plain. They indicate that the fiscal sponsor has to be a tax-exempt organization.
Anything further, Mayor?
No.
Is Project Moxie part of the Incorum group, or how?
We won an award last year to learn about housing developments, and they were part of the educational team with Incorum Health Foundation. So they're known to Incorum, and when we needed to identify who our partner would be, they were natural because we knew how much they knew.
So does that follow procurement code of already choosing the person who we would be working with on something? Is that?
Excuse me.
I mean, it's a professional service under 60,000.
So it would follow procurement. And my other question, I've been told, talking to Brian and whatnot, and it sounds like Brian has a lot on his plate right now and isn't as invested in this as we are, which I feel like is the exact opposite that it would need to be. That MC should be, if we're looking at housing that's geared towards them, they should be more excited or more leading the charge or involved. And the other, we mentioned different sites, the old hospital, and that is not ours, that's not our property, that's state property that's every report I've been given recently from MCMC and others who've been on the hospital board has been that building has to come down. It's not an option for anything.
I'll speak to all of that. So first, I believe the reason that Brian Cotter is preoccupied right now is the state got the $211.5 million under rural health transformation, and he is rallying and his team's rallying to try to get their fair share of that money. So it's not that he's lost interest in this, it's that is a very aggressive time frame, and I believe he's just temporarily attentive to that while the money is out there to be captured, frankly, or earned, I should say. So.
Is it Mr. Sagata, you spoke with him, is that your feeling?
I asked him if he was married to this project. His comment was, no, I'm not married to the project. But as per Mayor Pro Tem Honeyfield, we do fall under the 509.
Oh, we are, okay.
It's public, supported in our government units, states, possessions, or political subdivisions is in that. So we do fall under that. The other thing I would, since the mayor brought it up, this is state property that we're talking about, and a state entity who has a lot of money, certainly more resources than we do. The other part that kind of drew me, we've got to keep these records for at least 4 years. Does that mean we have to monitor everything for 4 years, or?
That's not my understanding, and again, I can come back to the commission for that. So I'll make a assertive case for this project in trying to bring different types of populations to the city, and I think in particular about young people and aging people. So that would be early retirees who are potentially affluent and have ambitions about starting businesses. They want to see great health care. And young families potentially coming here as remote workers or digital entrepreneurs or tradespeople, they want to see really great health care, particularly in women's health and if they're building families. So we have some vulnerability from an organizational community and economic development perspective around our healthcare. And having the ability to create a permanent workforce at the hospital that comes in here and doesn't have folks leaving because the housing is, dilapidated. We probably would benefit from having a really good healthcare housing solution that is sort of a door opener for a lot of good movement around our safety net here from a healthcare perspective. It is my view that Brian Cotter believes in this project. I wasn't privy to this conversation. We have had many meetings on the brownfield side and on the housing development side about getting this project underway. The old hospital, last I heard, which was very recent, the structure of the old hospital was intact. It doesn't mean we'd want to renovate it. It just gives us some extra options. And part of our assessment would be determining if we're looking at a price per square foot, are we better off just tearing it down or renovating it to try to get the kind of lift in healthcare workforce housing that we need? So my very strong recommendation would be, let's do the feasibility assessment if we get into it, and what we learn is, hey, this is a bad idea, great, we just got funded to figure that out. On the other hand, we could find it's highly feasible and be able to move very quickly in building that capital stack and getting this done.
I guess my only question, Madam Mayor, do you think if we do this, would that be enough to give the state a nudge? Maybe. Because, I mean, that thing's been sitting there about as long as I've been alive.
Madam Mayor and Commission, in talking with Mr. Cotter, after he, I guess, last week or the week before, he took a tour through the building, and he's not in favor of rehabbing. He says it needs to come down. I just learned that yesterday from him. So he's not in favor of rehabbing this facility.
But I mean, the utilities are there and whatnot to where the
Sure.
site has
The site has
potential.
potential.
The site has potential. Let me stress, I'm not against this project. I think we've got some other questions. I guess my recommendation would be we postpone it till the next meeting until we answer some more questions. There are the questions that you all brought up tonight.
My only further comment is when we say we're we, but the state is the state, and so we're not a we. There's no agreement with the state. This is state property that we're evaluating that's not our property. And I have a really big problem with that because it's not our property.
This is true.
So it's really up to the commission. I don't know what the wish of the commission is on item G.
May I make one more round of advocacy comments for this project? So we have an MOU with MCMC. And I believe that part of our reason for entering into the memorandum of understanding is we understand how central having high-quality healthcare that's affordable and accessible is to serving our constituents. So, and right now the state is paying an enormous amount of money for temporary workforce, and it is and it doesn't create the kind of longevity of relationships that are conducive to having people feel safe with the healthcare in their area. So part of the envisioning for this particular site was to have not only the healthcare workforce housing, but also to have a training and innovation center that could pull the kinds of folks we want to have in our community here, which would include young people who would be building families. So I am concerned that if we lose momentum on this, that we are signaling at a time when there's a lot of money in play around rural health transformation, that we're not a community that can move quickly when money's available and progress. I am not clear on what the resistance would be to accepting $20,000 to have a consulting group help us figure out the pro forma financials on this and the potential capital stack. I don't know what any possible downside, not one, could possibly be in relation to a feasibility grant. So that's my plea and advocacy.
Thank you.
I guess I had one more question also would be, I guess this is quite a bit of tracking on a $20,000 funds and stuff like that. Would that be Michael Ann doing this as another of her grants, or?
Not necessarily.
I mean,
I would certainly be involved in the procurement process.
And I guess that's my only point is, and I guess I would like to see his say property, the hospital actually here, the state is actually here, show their vote of confidence or whatever else on this same thing. That concerns me a little, because I understand what you're saying about a training center and all that. That is not going to be the city of Raton funding that.
Right.
So I mean, it's got to be state that's doing that or something else.
I think we all want good health care, but it's,
Right.
there's only so much we can do. We can support their efforts, but we can't lead on that effort. That's up to the hospital.
I will add this, though, on behalf of the hospital. One of the PFAC meetings I attended, the housing issue was brought up, and with enthusiasm, that a lot of the blame for their ability to attract new employees was on the fault of the city. So to Ms. Molina's point, I can see why yeah, it's not a significant amount of money, but there's no cost to us other than the inconvenience of some record keeping and whatnot, where it does at least give us a look of support that it's like, yeah, okay, we acknowledge we've got some housing issues here for medical professionals, and maybe a study is warranted.
I didn't mean to imply that the hospital was not interested in a housing study. I just asked if this going through tonight was necessary. Could we, take some time in that? And he said he was not married to this grant at the moment. So I'm not saying in any shape or form that the hospital is not wanting this to go through or not wanting a housing project.
Madam Mayor, I can add to Mayor Pro Tem's comments that we have lost some highly skilled, highly qualified professionals at the hospital level because we have a lack of housing. And they've come and been here temporarily and then moved on to areas that are able to provide that. So I would have to agree that accepting the money to do the feasibility study, I see no downside to that.
I would prefer to postpone and get some buy-in from MCMC.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
Okay, I move to postpone.
I have a motion and a second to postpone item G, the grant agreement between the City of Raton and Quorum Health Foundation to explore the feasibility of workforce housing in partnership with Miners Colfax Medical Center. Any further discussion? All in favor to postpone, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Nay.
So if we're not postponing it, then it's off the agenda is what's happening. So that's the motion on the table unless you're presenting another motion.
What was the vote?
The motion was to postpone, and it's not been postponed.
So are you saying your vote is nay? Or
My vote is nay to postpone. So we have 3 people who voted not to postpone, and 2 people voted differently.
So, Madam Mayor, may I introduce?
You may introduce another motion.
To accept this grant, or, yes, to accept this grant.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to accept this grant between the City of Raton and Quorum Health Foundation to explore the feasibility of workforce housing in partnership with Miners Colfax Medical Center. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay.
Nay.
Motion does not pass. Item H, deliberate and act on dispatch agreement between the City of Raton and Colfax County. Mr. Scott.
You got me. Mayor and Commission, before you is a grant agreement between State Aviation for Taxiway A pavement project. Last meeting, we came to you with all the federal grants. This buttons up the project. The state amount is $12,828, and the city match is $1,225. The city would recommend approval.
Comments, questions?
Madam Mayor,
Mayor
we
Pro-
skipped
Or did
H,
I skip?
the dispatch agreement.
Oh, I'm sorry. H. I thought that's what I read, the dispatch agreement. Did I read taxiway A?
Yes.
Sorry,
Well,
item H.
I guess I jumped ahead of you, Madam Mayor.
Because I think I said H. The dispatch agreement between the City of Raton and Colfax County.
I did, I jumped ahead of you, sorry. Mayor and Commission, before you is the dispatch agreement between the city and Colfax County for the amount of $75,000. This will be paid in monthly installments of $6,250. The city would recommend approval. This is for dispatch services throughout the county.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Questions or comments on the dispatch agreement with Colfax County?
Madam Mayor, is this the same amount as it was last year?
Yes, it is.
Do we feel that's adequate based on salary increases and so forth?
We just raised them last year, and what the kickback was, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, was if we were gonna raise them, please give them notice so they could adjust their budget. Again, this snuck up on us again this year, so next year going in, I would recommend possibly looking at a possible increase. but giving the county time to make the adjustments in their budget.
Thank you, Mr. Scott, for that clarification. Anything further from the commission? I'd entertain a motion on item H, the dispatch agreement between the City of Raton and Colfax County.
I recommend approval of the dispatch agreement between the City of Raton and Colfax County.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for item H on the dispatch agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item I, sorry,
Was that Lindy that second? Was that you?
it was Mark.
Mark, okay.
Item I, deliberate and act on state aviation grant agreement for taxiway 8 pavement maintenance. Mr. Scott.
Okay, now we can talk about this, Madam Mayor and Commission. This is a grant agreement from State Aviation for the Taxiway A pavement project. This is the sealing project that we did in the last meeting. Last meeting we came to you with the federal grants. This buttons up the project, like I said earlier. State amount is for $12,828. The city matches $1,425. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Questions about this? I believe we discussed the federal grant previously, and so this is the state portion of that.
This is the state portion of that.
I will move to approve it, to act on the state aviation grant agreement for taxiway A pavement maintenance.
I'll second.
I have a motion, a second, to approve the state aviation agreement for taxiway 8 pavement maintenance with the state portion, $12,828. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item J, deliberate and act on grant agreement 26K4121, First Amendment to grant agreement number 22J2918 to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch. Mr. Sagata.
Mayor and Commission, before you is the First Amendment to the grant agreement to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch. As you recall, we were initially granted $2 million from the governor's office for a visitor center at Sugar Reed. After determining that would not sufficiently cover the cost, and because of the area it was at, it would be hard to do. We asked for and were granted a reauthorization to use for the Buck Ridge purchase. This is that amendment. It still says, if you look at it on that first page, it says it's for a visitor center, but if you go back a few pages into the really small print, it does say it is for Buck Ridge Ranch. The city would recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Sagata. I did notice they still have the previous city manager, so that would need to be updated.
It is in bigger writing. Okay, we will get them.
To update the signatory
Signature page.
somewhere. I saw it in here somewhere.
No, it's there.
Is it? Like, I can't, this is like 40 pages.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, so everyone understands, this is not the entire purchase price of Buck Ridge. This is the majority of it, but the Nature Conservancy is working on a grant to help with the rest of the purchase. So. Questions?
Yes, ma'am. If I may. I noticed in this agreement as the carry forward, not only did they include the visitor center, but the artwork that went with it. So there's 20,000 of this grant that the state wishes to have us commit to artwork.
They have an art in public places.
Yes.
Yes. Does that have to go in this area, or does that art in public places go anywhere in the city?
That's a good question. Maybe Michael might know that answer.
Sure. We did do a small grant a few years ago at the senior center, and so we recently participated in the Art in Public Places program. We were actually told, because Kearney has about 11,000 in the current grant, and then we have a couple other smaller grants that also have the Art in Public Places. They did indicate to us that we could possibly bank the funds from multiple grants and possibly procure art for only one specific project. So how that works, I couldn't tell you, but that comment was made to us during the training. I'm not sure that it was clear to me on the amendment. I know in the original grant agreement, it spelled out the amount for the AIP. I guess until I get into the database and look at this, I'm not sure how the reauthorization has been put into the database.
I had circled that, now I can't.
It's
find
on the third page. It's
Are
on
you
the third
looking
page
at-
in. It's page 1 of 23, but it's the third page in. In section B,
All right,
IB.
I didn't know how much particular they were on that,
Well, and
in light of
the
what's
idea
being
that,
done.
yeah, no, that's a great, I'm glad you pointed that out too. If we
I
can.
guess my question would be to them, the original appropriation was for a physical to design and construct, plan, design, and construct a visitor center. Generally, they only require the art in public places when it's a physical structure. We have gotten some other grants that did not, that were over 100,000, that did not require the art in public places. Now, we do have a grant for the animal shelter, and it does have a provision for art in public places. So we would have to have that discussion if it's going to be at the animal shelter, or if we want to bank those funds towards procuring the art for Kearney School, if that's possible. So if that's the case, then it probably wouldn't have to be on this property. But now that they've redone the language for the reauthorization, that language there just says 2 million to plan, design, and construct. Well, that's the visitors center.
And that would, I mean, with that project, then the city's on
Really
the
all
hook.
it says is that it has been changed and shall not be expended for the original purpose, but is changed to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch. So to me, their amendment's not real clear.
So we really need to clarify if we're gonna have the full amount or if we're gonna be 20,000 short that goes for art.
Like I said, they just recently uploaded all of the 26 legislative capital outlay into our database, so I can look and see how it's been entered into the system.
Thank you. Mr. Sagata, do you feel like we should move on this tonight with that question of the actual amount we're accepting?
And the thing with the art in public places is when you have a grant and it has a reversion date, the funds for the art don't expire. So they kind of are held separately from the grant, and there's no expiration of those funds.
Well, and Madam Mayor, just to eliminate confusion, if they could correct this to where it's not a mistake that, no, it is not a visitor center that we're funding.
It would, we're very much relying on the full amount, so
Yeah.
that I feel like needs to be
So I mean,
straightened
if
out.
we're gonna clarify that, we might as well just clean up the document.
Clean it up.
Well, I think they have to reference the original appropriation from 2025 when there's been a reauthorization of the funds. So I don't know that they would change that language.
And Clerk Trujillo pointed out, it does say on the first page there that it is changed to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's really specific that
Yeah.
it shall not be expended for the original purpose. It was changed to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch near
So it-
Raton and Colfax County.
It appears that it's the full amount in that.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I would probably recommend approving the grant agreement with the contingency that staff reach out to Carmen at DFA in an attempt to remove the AIPP provision. Historically, if there's not a building, there's not AIPP. So I think it's something we could probably handle administratively, but we have been waiting an awfully long time for this grant agreement.
Like I said, it's possible when we get into the database that maybe there is no AIPP, but I can't tell you that unless I go run and get on my computer real quick.
But the thing we will have to change is on page 3 of 23.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Found it in there. I had it circled.
There it is.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a recommendation to approve it with the direction that the staff will reach out to DFA. Do I have a motion for item J regarding the grant agreement amendment for Buck Ridge Ranch?
I recommend that we approve grant agreement number 26K4121, First Amendment for grant to acquire agreement number 22J2918 to acquire Buck Ridge Ranch.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve this First Amendment to the grant agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item K, deliberate and act on Pacheco Construction and Trucking Change Order Number 1 for Second Street improvements. Mr. Scott.
Mayor and Commission, before you is change order number 1 from Pacheco Construction and Trucking for continued work on South Second Street. This is a positive change order. The initially approved work did not use the full amount of the allocated grant funding, so the remaining funds can be applied to additional sites that have been under consideration but not previously included. Change order authorizes those added improvements and increases the project cost by $196,218.75. Didn't plan on for Mr. Phillips to be here this evening, but since he is here, he can probably elaborate.
School board meeting agenda a little earlier than y'all. So as city manager stated, you know, at the time that we were bidding South Second Street, we had just came off the heels of having some really high bids on other projects, and we know gas tax was a little dicey. So I had instructed Tyler to scale back the project because I didn't believe we'd have enough money to bring to the table if it went over. So in the original design, we identified a number of wheelchair ramps, curb gutters, sidewalks, painting features, and then we scoped it back. Well, Pacheco came forward with a very favorable bid. So this change order, these funds have already been dispersed and are sitting in city coffers already. And, you know, we've got authority from DOT to continue work and doing it. And it's the same type of work. We're gonna go from 24 wheelchair ramps to 28. They're pricey. We're gonna do a little more striping. We're gonna do more curb and gutter up and down Second Street. We've already milled out and repaired some of the work south of Grant Street. Any patches that you see there weren't in the original scope, although we had, I mean, we could continue with another $300,000 change order and still have work to do on Second Street. But it is kind of a positive change order. We bid less than we needed, and we, at the owner's directive, have change ordered in these prices. You'll see there's some increase to items like mobilization. That's part of keeping their milling machine and their volumetric concrete truck around for additional days, rented equipment that was gonna be on a shorter duration. The rest of it are just quantity adjustments, and typically when we bid a project, we bid an agreement that we can decrease or increase quantities to meet available funding. So that's all this is. I think Pacheco has been fair. They have thrown a tremendous amount of effort at this project, and it's going well. We had the monthly meeting today with Pacheco, and we will add some construction days on, because anytime you do a change order and you increase the workload, you need to do that. But I think the gut feeling is that we will be done in about 6 weeks. Our painting subcontractor pulled off because of the weather forecast for a little bit. So if you noticed, the south underpass, the center and the east side have already been sandblasted and repainted. One side is lacking to be done, and then the beam work, so that'll happen at some point in this. But some of this work and some of these quantities have actually already taken place.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Comments, questions from the commission? Excited to see all the new patches. It's looking good out there. Would entertain a motion on item K, the change order for Pacheco Construction.
I move to accept the change order on Pacheco Construction and Trucking, change order number 1 for Second Street improvements.
Second.
I have a motion, a second for the Pacheco Construction and Trucking change order number 1. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item L, deliberate and act on maintenance/managed services support agreement between the City of Raton and Converge 1 utilizing state price agreement 60000025000021. Mr. Scotto.
Mayor Commission, before you is an agreement with C1. It outlines their scope of work between Coverage One and the Raton Police Department for managed services and maintenance support of our NG 911 system from July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. It, like I said, outlines the scope of services, including service desk support, proactive monitoring, incident change management, third-party vendor coordination for the system at the Raton Police Department. The amount of the agreement is $67,460.84. This is an annual subscription. The city would recommend approval. I believe it is a little bit of housekeeping. Is this the one that the agreement was originally signed by someone else and it needed to be signed?
Madam Mayor and Commission, at a previous commission meeting in July, you did approve the state grant agreement for the E911. Converge One has historically been one of the vendors paid through that grant. However, the DFA E911 is kind of changing the way that some of these vendors are paid, and so over time, a lot of the vendors have been paid directly by DFA with the grant funds. So we're going to start seeing in this fiscal year several vendors that we're going to have to start paying, and then quarterly we'll request reimbursement from DFA. This agreement was previously sent directly to our dispatch supervisor, who thought they had the authority to sign it because the grant agreement had been approved. But I did inform them that only the mayor and the city manager have the authority to sign contracts on behalf of the city. So we're bringing this to you this evening for commission approval. And as the city manager stated, it is an annual agreement. So you'll see on their solution quote, it's broken out into 3 annual payments. And like I said, I think we already have an invoice for services, and we'll be utilizing the state price agreement, but we'll get them paid and then seek reimbursement from DFA from the E911 grant.
Thank you, Ms. Antonucci. Comments, questions from the commission on this?
And so there could be other contracts, agreements coming to you that are related to E911. So, we'll kind of figure this out as we go.
Thank you. What is the wish of the commission on item L?
I recommend approval of the maintenance managed services support agreement between the City of Raton and Converge One, utilizing state price agreement number 60000025-00021.
Second.
Motion and a second to accept the support agreement for the E911. Any further discussion? All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item M, deliberate and act on resolution 2026-44, approval of July 2026 financial reports. Mr. Scotto, turn this over to Ms. Antonucci.
Resolution for approval and Michael Lanza report.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Commission, I bring to you this evening our July financial report. This is the first report for the new fiscal year. At our financial advisory meeting earlier today, we reviewed this report and all of the attachments. I did point out to the advisory committee that our beginning cash plus our $1 million in the invested CD is $2,822,235. That was also our ending cash as of June 30, so that carries forward to July 1. Less the $1 million CD, which we're counting that towards our required 1/12th reserve, which typically is probably closer to $700,000 based on our budgeted general fund expenditures. That would leave you an available cash of $1,814,232. I did point out to the committee earlier today, Commissioner Honeyfield had asked a few questions. As we've talked throughout the past fiscal year, we've been transferring a large amount of funds out of the general fund to cash flow, mainly Kearney and several of the larger park improvement projects. Those monies have been trickling in. Generally in the month of July, I've received most of the grant reimbursements. So as soon as I get the approved FY27 budget from DFA, then I'll start reimbursing the general fund for those temporary transfers. So we had park improvements, the airport, Kearney School. So I'll reimburse to the general fund what I can now. We do have, several large projects also coming up here in the near future that the commission approved to utilize general fund reserves, such as the demolition project. That will, the bids are due next week on that. I believe September 3rd at 2 p.m. So we'll see how those bids come in, but those monies would be coming out of the general fund reserve as well. So, like I said, I'll try to replenish as much as I can here in the first quarter. Most of the funds that we've committed to the Kearney School probably will need to stay in that fund at least till, I guess, Phase 1B is complete. And then we'll kind of revisit that. Now we are getting ready to start another airport project, and so we do have other projects on the horizon that we'll probably have to cash flow once again. So, unfortunately, it is going to put a little bit of a strain on the general fund, but we'll manage it the best that we can. My desire would be to try to keep the $1 million CD invested when it comes due in January. I think we earned a little over $40,000 on interest last year. So, whatever little bit of interest certainly helps the general fund. We did receive our gross receipts distribution for August. That reflects the June business activity. It did come in just slightly less than our budget projection. However, I think that with the Second Street project kind of still ongoing, and with the change order that you just approved, that project is still going to be, going well into October. So I think we're going to still see a lot of GRT coming in specifically on that project. So next month's report might look a little better. I did notice, and I'm not sure if you remember during our budget discussions, the New Mexico tax and revenues starting as of July 1, there's a reduction in the admin fee that we pay to the state. That automatically gets deducted from our distributions. So I did see when I was looking at the total of our admin fee and our loans, it was probably about $15,000 less than this time period last year. So I'm pretty confident that that reduction in fees has taken effect, and we'll start to see that every month. Now, the fees prior to July 1 were 3%, so starting with this fiscal year, it's 2%, and then next July 1, it'll drop to 1%, and then in 2028, July 1, it'll be fully repealed, and we'll no longer remit any fees to tax and rev. So like for the general fund, for instance, I would say that fee's probably about $100,000 a year. So that'll be kind of an infusion of cash back into our general fund, which will certainly help. Other than that, our staff is now focusing on completing the year-end close process, kind of posting our end-of-year audit adjustments. We are required to physically close out our accounting system by September 30th. And then once we do that, we kind of upload the new budget into the system, and good to go for the new fiscal year. I've also included in your packets your comparison reports for lodger's tax. We did have a lodger's tax board meeting yesterday, and we did review the July revenues. Pretty close to what they were the previous year, but still down about 1.53%. So hoping that we don't continue to see a downward trend. I think this year especially, the Dawson reunion is every 2 years, so we usually see a pretty good collection in September and October. And this year, the way the dates fell, Labor Day is actually in September. So some years, some of that revenue comes in August, and this year we'll probably won't see most of those revenues until September's report. Gas tax, it was higher than last year, but it was pretty close to the amount that we received last month. So at least, I mean, it's showing a positive there, but it's still really not as high as we had hoped. So I think that could kind of indicate to us that the new Maverick is possibly taking business from other local gas stations, or people just altogether are finding cheaper gas outside of Raton. So I don't know, but you know, if it stays within 16,000 to 20,000 a month, we can certainly meet our match commitments, I believe, for the DOT projects that we've been awarded. So cannabis excise tax, that one kind of fluctuates throughout the year, but we're kind of showing a positive with that one year to date as well. I did mention to the committee earlier, our fund, I have to get my big one. Let's see, the Fund 206, law enforcement, as of the end of July, it was showing a negative amount, but I did just this past week receive $111,500, which is our annual distribution for law enforcement. And then there was one other that was a negative. Oh, the recreation. So we did do a transfer of funds because the budget city commission approves a transfer annually to supplement operations. So I didn't transfer the full amount. Some years we use the full amount, sometimes we don't. So I just took half of the amount that was budgeted, and we'll put that into recreation to kind of get us through. Now we're getting into the slower season for the aquatic center. Kids have gone back to school, and then we're also potentially going to lose a little bit of revenue when we start the sand filter project, because the pool will be closed at least for 2 weeks. So that's coming up in October. And then the funds for the sand filter project will be coming out of our Fund 302, the pool GRT fund. So we look forward to getting that project completed. I guess I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Antonucci. I know that Municipal League worked very, very hard to get that admin fee taken off for the state, so that we should be seeing a great benefit of that by the third year. I was just thinking that there's probably a lot of, I know that RPS and our board meetings is making a lot of money off those chargers. So there are a lot of vehicles using those EV chargers, which does erode our gas tax as well. So
yeah, so I think there's a lot of factors at play. So.
Comments, questions from the commission on the financials? I would entertain a motion on Resolution 2026-44.
I would move to approve the financial report, Resolution 2026-44, July 2026.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2026-44. Any further discussion? Thank you, Ms. Antonucci, for that report. All in favor, vote by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item N, the Exalted Grand City Manager Report. He gave himself that title the other day.
You got me there. Mayor and Commissioners, you all did such a bang-up job with your reports. Between now and the last meeting we had, we attended a lot of the same things, but I'll just give you some highlights. As mentioned earlier, yourself, Commissioners Campbell and Holger, and Mr. Phillips, we all met with Yes Housing last Thursday, looked at the 2 lots. They were very excited about it. They're extremely excited, I thought, about the off the El Tiger.
El Portal.
Off the Tiger Drive
Oh,
site.
okay.
the Crelo Cabbage property. Enrico sent some things down today. I gave you copies of projects that they had done in Albuquerque, just to kind of give us an idea of what they do. They're going to review these sites and return with some proposed concepts. We sent them all the deed information and stuff and plot maps that we had available to us, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they send back. Then yourself, myself, again, Commissioner Campbell and Mr. Phillips, we did meet with state parks officials last Wednesdays. I will say it was a rough, bumpy start when we were talking about the trails, and it got a little testy, but we all settled down and got to talking about things. We all agreed that the last 5-year plan was presented 15 years ago, so that might need an update. They agreed that we should all be involved in setting the park's future direction. I thought then that you guys might correct me, but I thought they said it would be this fall they plan to get the road up to the cabins made or paved, not paved, but put in place where you could drive, and it would be a drivable road.
Drivable road.
And they would also install the vault toilet at that time. And I thought they said that was gonna happen this fall.
I don't remember on the toilets, because they had a whole project where they were doing all,
Well, they were
replacing a bunch of
refurbishing,
toilets.
they were gonna refurbish all the shells on the toilets and remove.
27 goal of having
I
them open.
thought it was the 2027, yeah.
So I mean, that would be next summer.
That'd be next summer, so I would think they'd need to do it this fall, so. Yeah. And then they got to the crux of the meeting. They don't have any drinking water. They've been under boil water for the last 2 years. And we've started discussions with how that would look. And Mr. Campbell made it very clear. Basically, he told them how that would work, so we'll see what happens there. As reported earlier by Mr. Campbell, the post-fire was 90% containment as of 3:30 this afternoon. I got a total of like 40 acres burned. At this time, our watershed is not under threat. Exercise equipment's been installed in Roundhouse Park, and it is being utilized by walkers, so that's cool. And along that note, as I think we stated maybe last meeting, the governor may be coming on October 20th, specifically, for our life.
Quality of life.
Quality of life, thank you. Quality of life program and how we utilize the money in the parks and that, so that would be cool. We did meet with the utilities on our monthly thing. The majority of the conversation centered around RPS. They are going to have folks from Sustainability Inc., I think is what they are. Anyway, they look for investors in that in generation. So they are going to be here on September 2nd, and the meeting will be over in RPS's room. Just to see what they've come up with. We talked about when they were here last time about the possible, what's it look like to finance and bring some generation into town. So it'll be interesting to see what they said. And then Lloyd gave us an update on the water projects, which most of you, Mr. Honeyfield and that, spoke about in their reports. As reported earlier, we've got work continuing on South 2nd Street. Tuesday, the mayor and myself met with Miller Timber and discussed their plans for the future. They're setting up a base here in Raton so that when fires break out in this region, they are on call. They've got a contract with the feds, so they could be wheeled up out of Raton. They are looking for young men to apply for those positions and go through training and that.
Young women.
And young women. And the chief was, Chief Burke was also there, and it was a good conversation. Looking forward to the new business in town, and I think it'll be a great benefit for us. And then I'd just like to remind everyone that the Gate City Music Fest is quickly approaching. I imagine tickets are going fast because Exile is the groups, you know, I want to hurt you all over, love you all over, whatever. We hope to see everyone there. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sagata. Anything further from the commission? Commissioner Hoger?
No.
Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Schuster? Mayor Pro Tem Raton?
Yes, if I could, when the energy group meets, could we advertise as a possible forum?
I guess we could.
I think that's really a question for the general manager of RPS to decide.
Okay.
I'll run it by Brenda tomorrow. Yeah, that would be her call, so.
As for myself, I just had lots of different emails this week, lots of different city criticisms, but I just want to make a statement that I made back to a certain individual, just that I ask you to find any harder working staff in any city in New Mexico. The city of Raton staff produce an incredible amount of work considering our size and budget. No one is perfect, myself especially. However, our staff do more with less every single day. I just want to honor our city staff for all the work that they do and our utility staff as well. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.